Good evening. I think we can call the meeting to order. Do we have any additions and deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move to the approval of the minutes of the meeting of May 22nd, 2012.
Chairman, I move we accept the minutes of May 22nd, 2012 meeting as written.
Second.
Vote?
Aye.
Aye. Passed. Motion passes. Minutes are approved. We can move on to our first order of business, which is appeal number 12-001. It's Mr. Marcia Morgos. Is that, am I saying that correct?
No. Where are we at?
Oh, this is, oh, wait a minute.
That's last.
That's last, excuse me, I'm back. Okay, 12-003. Excuse me. Mr. and Mrs. Robert Gable. That I can pronounce. Of 28425 Swan Island Drive, Grosse Ile, Michigan. They have requested a public hearing before the Zoning Board of Appeals to construct an attached garage that encroaches into his front yard setback on a corner lot, number 47, Swan Island subdivision, as recorded in Wayne County Records, Township of Grosse Ile, County of Wayne, Michigan, also known as 28425 Swan Island Drive. Is there someone here to present the case? You can come up here to the podium. Can you tell us who you are and your address to verify it?
Robert Gable and Kathleen Gable, 28425 Swan Island Drive.
Okay, now,
Talk right into the mic. Yeah, right.
Okay. Gable, Robert, my wife Kathy, 28425 Swan Island Drive.
He's the applicant.
you are the applicant?
Yeah, I'm the applicant.
Yes, he's the applicant.
Okay. Do you have your preparation here to answer the questions?
Yes.
Okay, so why don't you tell us what you want, why you want it?
Well, we were contemplating building a 12 by 16 foot shed, and we couldn't do that because of the setbacks requirements. So then we were advised that we would have to come up with some alternative plan, and if we attached it to the house, then it wouldn't be a subject matter as far as the size of the shed. So if we had to spend $900 to come before the board, then I wasn't going to build just a 12 by 16 shed. If we were going to attach it to the house, then it was going to be a garage. Unfortunately, originally we were told that we had to be 40 feet back from the road. And then during the process, that changed to be 40 feet back from the property line, which changed the parameters of what I thought we were trying to do here. So the only option I had was to be behind the garage, make sure I didn't fall within the average setback of the water, which we don't, and to gain access to the garage, it would encroach upon the front line corner lot side angle by 16 feet. Originally, I thought it would be 39 feet back, because I was 40 feet
Now, how did you determine the average setback from the canal, from the water? How did you determine that?
based on the survey.
Based on the survey?
Yeah, the surveys that were supplied by other people that have done other things based on the house lot line survey. Or 84 feet back from the lot.
Okay, was that completed, Brian? Do you?
Yeah, the owners worked with township staff, and I believe it was Tony and Lori were able to come up with basically the site plans for the adjacent and surrounding homes. So it was based off of essentially piecemealing together multiple surveys and identifying where that approximate line was. So, yeah, I feel comfortable with that statement, and it's even reflected in my review letter that the township believes that the average shoreline setback is met.
Okay.
So,
Do you have a sketch of what you want? I see you have some drawings there.
Yeah.
You want to put, can you
Yeah,
put
I
it
gotta
on
turn
the,
that on.
Mr. Chairman, I'm a little confused. I know the history of this, and this is, you wanted a shed, and this turned into an attached garage and then lost. But how did we get to a shed to a garage? Right? Did I not hear that?
yeah, I mean, do you, the question is, how do you go from wanting a shed to getting an attached garage?
But you said you wanted a shed, and you talked me into it.
Well, the size of the shed that we wanted would require the ordinance also.
Yeah.
So
You said
based
15
on,
by 12, but now you're into a bigger thing.
right. So based upon that criteria, we decided that we would rather have a garage door. That would better meet our needs.
So when you were at 12 by 16 shed, what was the instruction?
Anything that I can build on the property will fall within the 40 feet.
Right.
The property.
How long was that?
Well, depending on where it was located, I wanted to put it back further from the house, obviously. So that it would have encroached upon the water frontage and the side frontage.
Oh, you wanted it back towards the water, so it would have hit that problem. But if you left it behind the house, and it's far to the point where you weren't encroaching on the water thing, how much of a variance would that require? This is now 16 feet, I guess.
It still would require variance because I'm still going to be within the 40 feet setback from
No,
the
I
property.
understand, but how much would it have been?
Probably 8 or 10 feet. And
So I still don't
and have to attach it to the
I
house.
still don't understand the history of it, though. I mean, you want the shed, but now all of a sudden, you got talked into a garage attached. But you already have an attached garage, right?
Right, I have an attached garage. Anything above 120 square feet has to be attached to the house on waterfront property.
Okay, so you could have a 10 by 12 shed, and that would have been fine, right?
I didn't want it to be 12 square.
Well, I didn't ask that.
Well, that, you asked the question why I went from 12 by 16 to 20 by 16. 18
So
by 20 feet.
is there any way to locate something close to a 12? Am I ahead of myself here, Brian?
Well, what I'd like to do is have you finish your presentation, and then I think addressing the variance that you have. You have quite a variance there. It's a 16-foot variance, and I guess that was a question from the board member. I think he's addressing that. He said that's a lot of variance for.
Right, but when he went through the history, I was so confused I couldn't even think about the variance. So we want to
So I guess the thing is you're telling us you want the garage.
Okay, well, as part of Brian's review also, that we've gone over this with him, and with the way our property is set up, we are kind of in a unique situation from the standpoint of a corner lot. We're also waterfront. So we have two front yards, which is a side road, a front yard, and the waterfront, which makes it very difficult for us to be able to expand or do anything without incurring a variance, either for a shed or a garage, or even expanding our house on that particular side of the property. The other side of our property where our neighbor is at, there is no room for expansion whatsoever because we're very close to each other. So that's why we have to ask for a variance.
So I'm listening. I'm reading some of the Board of Appeal guidelines, and that you went through these. And one of the questions: is there an alternative method? Is there an alternate method? And you're telling me that really what you're looking at now is the method, and there is no alternate other than building your smaller shed, other than going to a smaller.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's the alternate. The alternate is going to a smaller structure.
Right, which isn't going to fulfill what we wanted.
That's the alternate. Okay. Now, one other question that it's always asked, and it's hard to answer, is was hardship self-inflicted? And you answered no, it was not self-inflicted. Do you understand that question?
Well, I guess we looked at it from the standpoint that we're not responsible for the variances. So that's what we looked at it from the hardship standpoint.
Yes, because we have a tendency to look at it, was it self-inflicted? You put the structure where it is, so you did it. You did the action, so that that inflicted the variance. That's how I look at it. So the answer to me was yes. I mean, you did know that you were going to have a variance. It was self-inflicted.
Okay, all right. Well, it's just a matter of perception and of the question.
Now, you've got to make a case for saying why we, as a board, should say, yep, we'll approve the variance, given the fact that you're talking a 16-foot variance, and we don't see very many 16-foot variances at this board level. We really don't. So you have to give us a real good reason.
The lot line, it goes at an angle. Anything that's built, actually the house barely meets that, actually currently the house probably doesn't meet the 40-foot setback from the property line. The existing structure doesn't meet the 40-foot setback.
Well, I was going to ask that, you just said something about it, but just go back to this little thing. Are we talking again about to the road or to the property line?
To the property.
Property line, okay.
From
So
the
on this print where it shows, the only one that they wanted, the house 44 feet 11 inches, Brian, is that to the property line? Yeah, okay, it says property line.
Yeah.
So we don't know that the house doesn't meet the requirement, right? And
Yeah, I'm, by all my calculations, the house complies with the setback requirements.
Yeah, I'm saying your house complies with the 40-foot setback both from the Swan Island Drive and the Swan Road, so that meets that. Right, so your house meets the criteria there. So I guess the question that we've got is the structure that you want to build and try to come to some kind of a decision here. That's what we've got to do. We have to come to a decision.
I have a question. Why is a 10 by 12 structure not big enough for you?
Doesn't suit our needs. I have 4
Particularly
cars.
why?
I have 4 cars.
We have
We have 4 vehicles. I have a 2-car garage.
We have a lawnmower. He does carpentry, so part of that would be used to build things.
So the original 12 by 16 would have accommodated all that?
Well,
No,
not
not
really,
a truck.
but I was trying to stay within the guidelines, and I cannot build anything above 120 square feet without attaching it to the house. This is going to be attached to the house. If I'm going to attach it to the house, I see no point to limit myself to 12 by 16 if I'm going to stand there and have to make a case for it. And I understand your concern about the 40 feet setback. I mean, I can't adjust the lot line. The lot line goes at an angle. If you move that garage or a shed back, 5 feet, you lose another 4 feet on the angle lot line.
And it said in there, you don't want to put it on an angle to make it look stupid to the house.
Right. I mean, if you move that, any structure 40 feet from the lot line, it would be in the middle of the yard because of the lot line going at the congruent angle that it's at. The front corner of the garage is probably 3 feet extra from the 40 feet. The back corner of the garage just barely meets the 40 foot setback.
So I have another question then. You have a patio, and removal or redesigning the patio doesn't suit your fancy either, is that correct?
Well, we just had extensive work done on our patio, and it's, been there, and it's to the back of our, we're a tri-level, so it butts up to the back of our house, and you come out those doors, and then we have a circular patio attached to that. So going any further in with the garage is going to
And if we move the garage in the middle of the yard, then we run into the variance for the water frontage, because then the variance for the 84 feet changes.
Oh.
Because the closer the garage moves to the north of the property, the closer to the water it gets. because of the angle of the lot. There's three different things going on here. There's three frontages. There's the angle of the lot and the way the house is situated.
So those are your extenuating circumstances, the,
Correct. It's the angle of the lot primarily. We kept it within the water frontage to keep it back to the water frontage. But, you know, shortening the garage coming west towards the house doesn't stop the variance from the front corner, because the underlying falls back quite significantly as it goes towards the connect.
yeah,
Another way of saying is if you had a rectangular lot, he'd be 44 feet 11 inches from the property line, but he doesn't have a rectangular lot.
We don't have a congruent lot.
yeah.
That's absolutely correct. It wouldn't be an issue at all.
Right.
I mean, originally, like I stated, I was going to be 40 feet back from the road, so I tried to keep it as close to the 40 feet back setback. If it was, then I was going to be 40 feet back from the lot line, which changed the perception.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Is the garage, the way your lot is, there's obviously drainage. Is the lot in the area where it's the flattest before the drainage ditch, if you will, or do you have to fill some of that in?
No, it's way far from that.
Okay.
There wouldn't be any fill required. The only fill that would be required would be the level of the garage with the existing concrete deck on the property.
Oh, with this plan, what happens to your trees on the south side?
They still stay there.
They're not affected at all?
Nope, goes on the inside of it. You're talking about the wall?
Our little bushes and our trees, yeah, it's on the inside of that.
Yeah, that's on the inside. Were you at this property, Ann?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they had that marked, they had the area marked, so the trees aren't affected at all.
No.
Those are pretty good size arborvitae.
Yeah, no, we're not doing anything to that whatsoever, it's just basically the grass.
Yeah. I looked at that, the landscaping is pretty well established there. And, I also looked at the road, and from just the shoulder of the road itself back to where you want the structure built, I estimated it was like 30 feet, maybe more than 30 feet from the shoulder of the road back. So, Brian, you know what I'm talking about?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously from the roadway, it's farther, but setbacks by definition are never measured to a roadway.
I understand that, but
Okay.
I'm looking at it, I'm saying, I don't know if they're ever going to widen that road or
I don't think
not.
there is a shoulder.
Yeah. Well, they're just the road. But are they ever going to widen the road or anything like that? But there is, the setback is quite far, and it's landscaped pretty well, actually, Now, the other question I got, is there a line of sight problem with anyone on this? Do you know? I looked at the property, and I don't think there's a line of sight problem with any neighbors or anything.
Based on the way the township looked at it, I don't believe there are any issues with that waterfront setback at all. You can even, if you look at the numbers, what happens is you've got an issue of the homes adjacent are closer to the water, and the canal actually angles inward. So it's kind of a duplicative effect where they have a much larger waterfront setback right now than do the two properties, which would be to the north of them.
Did you talk about, what if you moved the garage 9.5 feet north? Now, that's on your drawing. On your drawing.
And within the middle of the patio.
Yeah, see,
Yeah.
I have this one. And so that would be this area right here.
Correct. If you moved it 9 feet, then it would only be a variance of 8
That would make you almost right back of your garage.
But that would make it difficult to get into the garage with their,
Pardon?
it would be difficult to get into the garage with their driveway plan.
That's correct. And then it would also jeopardize our existing patio and
Yeah, the structure. I mean,
Back door.
It would also, the further you move the garage north, the closer it gets to the water. The further
But
you
you're
move
far
to
enough from the
north-
water, you really don't have to worry about that.
Well, I'm 84 feet
Uh-uh.
back, and the average
Right.
setback looks like about 7.
And the problem with a separate garage is it the size?
It's not the size.
I mean, a standalone garage.
A detached garage, what is the problem with
Unattached.
the detached garage?
we can't do a detached garage. It has to be
Attached
attached to
to
the
the house.
existing, the house or the
There-
existing garage.
Mr. If I can jump in a waterfront yard situation, the ordinance restricts you to 120 square feet for a detached building.
So they
So
could have a
technically, you-
detached 120 square foot garage.
You could have 120 square foot, but you'll never, in a 10 by 12, you can't fit a car.
But they already have a two-car garage.
That's correct.
Okay.
Unless you ask for another variance.
Correct.
But you didn't want to go that variance route. That, I mean, is choosing what you wanted. You wanted this.
Well, it's hard to, I mean, I'll try to explain it. If I got to attach it to the house, and if I want to make it 12 by 16, and I got to spend $900 to come before you for a variance, okay? Because 12 by 16 will barely fit a single car anyway. I might as well ask, because I'm going to be too close to the road and I'm going to be over the square footage, and I might as well build a garage. And my original plan was to go 24 by 24. I was told I had to be 40 feet back from the road, later told 24. So I reduced the size of the garage to the 18 feet to make it the maximum amount of space with the least amount of impact, so I could get a car around the front garage into the back garage.
Yeah, I guess the way I look at it, you do have some extenuating circumstances that really push you to do what you're doing right now, and that is you have the two roads to deal with, you know, and then you have the water, then you have the canal in the back. That's extenuating circumstance that you can't get away from. That's there, and so if you didn't have that other road, you'd be perfectly okay, actually.
Actually, I'd be perfectly okay if the lot line was straight.
Or if the lot line is straight, but the lot
If the lot
line,
line was straight, there wouldn't be any issues at all.
yeah.
It's just it's because the lot line runs congruent against the road.
But even if, you say if you had a neighbor there instead of the road, you'd still be okay. I mean, that would have, I think that probably would have met the setback ordinance. Brian, you know what I'm talking about?
I mean, we're talking
That's a
hypothetical, so
that's a
it's,
hypothetical.
yeah, it's hard, I mean, it's hard to say. Were that not a road, and were, you know, if it were a side yard and not a front yard, we'd be talking about a 6-foot setback, not a 40-foot setback.
And that's what I'm talking about. And see, that's the extenuating circumstance, and I have a tendency to look at that as being an extenuating circumstance.
That's the hardship. But when you buy a lot like that, you get a lot like that, and you have to deal with it.
Well, that's my point. If you buy, that's what I think. If you, how long have you owned the house? All right. So when you bought the house, how much have you added to the house, or have you, since you bought it?
As far as nothing.
As far as patio and all that kind of stuff?
Just, yeah, that's existing.
Except for the side yard, what they built on the side yard.
Okay.
And when I bought the house, the estate agent said I could build anything as long as I was 40 feet from the road.
That's why you should always check with the township first.
They don't always know.
No.
We were, you know, at that time planning on building a garage, so you don't know all these things until you look into it.
Okay, do you have anything else to add?
No, I think it's very appreciated consideration of the fact, you know, it's not so much what we wanted to do as much as the lot line prohibiting from dictating what we can.
Okay. Do we have anybody in the audience that wants to address the situation?
Yeah, but did you ask Brian for his comments?
No. Brian, you want to give us a synopsis of what you come up with?
I mean, I think we've already hit the highlights. I think the position you're put in here is my opinion, there are some unique circumstances of this particular property. The triple-fronted nature is not something that's common township-wide. Obviously, at this particular intersection of road and canal, there are 3 other lots that share that same condition. But if you were to expand that to district-wide, which is what your task is per the ordinance, I would say a triple-fronted lot is a rather unique circumstance. So really, I think where you're put this evening is to determine whether or not those circumstances justify the extent of the variance. I think some amount of variance is likely justified, again, in my opinion, given the conditions of the lot. Really, the debate amongst yourselves is whether or not the 16-foot encroachment is justified by those conditions. I would like, I guess, maybe to throw one other element out there for consideration, and you can see it on the plans on your screen. But I think it's important to note, and this is noted in my review letter, the entire structure does not encroach by 16 feet. So I think that's an important thing. Because of the angle we're dealing with, that 16-foot encroachment is the maximum extent of the encroachment. But the opposite corner is closer to 30 feet in terms of its setback. So if you can look at the angle that you're dealt with here, it's not as though, I guess what I'm saying is the impacts are slightly different than if the entire structure encroached by the full 16 feet, as opposed to a part of the structure.
I have one other question. Does that roof line connecting the 2 structures make it one building?
Yes.
Is there anybody in the audience that wants to address the situation? Hearing no one, are there any other comments that before we get a motion? Anybody else want to?
Brian, we haven't heard from any neighbors. Is that, it looks like the one to the south is the only one we have.
Yeah, Lori can confirm that, but I don't believe the township received anything in terms of letters, objections,
Bob,
or...
have you talked to your neighbors?
Yes, we've talked to both neighbors on the south and on the other side, and both of them had no objection.
So, Mr. Chairman, I maybe should notify them that they need at least 4 votes or something. Just 5.
Yeah, we need 4 votes to. We have 5. We have 5 members.
We have 5. Normally we have how many? 7?
7. We normally have.
We're missing 2 members, and the point of what I was trying to say is, like, you're going to take your chances with 5 people tonight, unless you want to postpone it and wait for 7. That's up to you, I guess, the decision making made, is that right?
As far as, we have enough, I think what John Carnago was saying is that the lesser number of people you have on the, voting, it could be that one vote would sway it negatively, so that's what he's saying. But if you want, it's up to you. Do you want to continue on with the process? That's the...
When is the next
You
meeting?
need 4 votes.
When is the next meeting?
September 25th.
And then we would just do all this.
Well, and of course you can't guarantee then you're going to...
Yeah, there's no guarantee there's no guarantee you're going to have 7 members here.
When
And
will
then
you
probably...
be instructing them?
Well, not till spring at this point.
So it's up to you. You want to go forward with this, and you're
Like being at the casino.
Mr. Chair, can I just throw one more point out there, just to make sure that everybody understands and is clear too? We're currently 1 seat open. We have a vacant seat, so we don't even have 7 appointed members to the ZBA right now. So
we have 6 members that are active.
The likelihood of us having 7 in the next month is probably pretty slim.
Okay.
Obviously, there's a chance that our 6th appointed member could show. But I just wanted to make that clear, that until the Township Board appoints a 7th person, we're not going to get to 7.
And the point that John makes, but it's just for your own information, so, so that it gives you an opportunity to say, hey, maybe I can do better with 6 than 5. That's the idea. But if you want to go ahead, it's up to you.
Next month, you can only have 4 people.
That could be. That could be, yeah. Okay.
Okay, I have one further question.
Sure.
If you say you have 4 vehicles, and that's one of the reasons for wanting to build a structure of this size, right?
Well,
Correct. And the reason for the length is for a boat possibly.
Okay, so are you going to be able to fit 2 cars into this structure, even if it's 12 by 16?
No, it's 18 by 28.
I'm sorry, 18 by 28.
Yeah, because
Okay.
the minimum on it, I can get a 14-foot door and I can put 1 car in and then 4 over the side. That's why it's 8 feet past the garage corner there, so I can put a vehicle.
And then put a boat at the back.
Yeah, put a boat back, or put a boat straight back, because the boat's usually more than 20 feet long with the motor and kind of the trailer, so when you slide in there, 20 feet pretty easy.
And the only way you can mitigate the 16-foot is by putting that thing at an angle. That's the only,
I don't
and you don't want to do that.
I don't think I can mitigate the 16-foot. I mean, there would be a variance of some sort regardless.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, if you put the structure, that 18 by 28-foot structure, at the angle of the road,
Angle from the road.
I thought he couldn't do
No,
that.
you're saying instead of going this
No,
way.
if they angled it, like,
well, you still attach, you still have it attached to the house, but you're taking that structure and moving it that way.
Yeah, Jim, it was addressed, I think, in the package, saying it just would look odd with the other structures, but I agree with you, that's a possibility.
That's the
I
mitigating,
wouldn't know how to attach it to the house to make it look nice.
and that's your decision.
Well, I think you probably would have something to say with the drawings, because it would make some very unusual roof lines.
You'd also have funny setbacks from the seawall.
Exactly.
You may be in violation of the seawall if you jack that off to the angle.
I mean, the biggest problem we have is the congruent line of the lot line. So it falls back at such an angle from the front to the back. You get 10 feet back from the back of the garage, you're already within the 40 feet. And as Brian pointed out, at the beginning of the garage, it's actually 30 feet setback from the property line. As the garage goes back, it gets closer and closer to the setback. The maximum on it is 16 feet at the back corner of the garage.
Brian, what is the, I mean, you did give us some information that this lot is very unusual. It's unique on Grosse Ile. So I haven't seen anything, I mean, there's a house right across from you that has the same set of circumstances. I think that's, yeah.
Except they have more side yard.
Why is that? Because like, I live on Thoroughfare, it's on an angle, and the house on the corner is on the canal, it's the same thing. Three-sided problem.
Yeah, I didn't say that this was the only one, but it's certainly, if you look at it township-wide or district-wide, triple-fronted lots are not that common.
No, but you go along the canal, and there's quite a few of them. Every corner. Church. Horse mill, two-door homes, and it's a problem. Three-sided block, and, you can't do anything. And they knew that when they bought the lot.
No.
Oh, that's right, your guy told you that you could film.
As long as you're 40 feet from the road.
Yeah, and I've heard that happen before, too.
Okay. I mean, maybe I should have done some more research and, I checked, but it seemed logical to me, based upon the size of the lot. And the issue is, you're correct, there is 3 triple fronts, but the fourth issue is it's not a rectangular lot. The one across from me is a rectangular lot. So when it's situated Swan Allen Drive Road, that lot is a lot wider in the front. It actually protrudes on a weird angle in the front corner than it does in the back. It's nowhere near square.
My lot's like that too. I think almost everyone in Thoroughfare Canal is, and Thoroughfare runs on an angle, so not only Canal is an angle, but Thoroughfare runs on an angle. So if you're on the corner of Horsesnell and Thoroughfare and Canal, you've got a angle. Church.
I have a question for Brian. In your report, you say that the only potential impact on views would be for the property across the street to the south. How much of an impact is that going to be for their view?
Again, it meets the setback requirement, so I don't believe it requirement-wise, I don't believe there is an impact. I mentioned that because, that's really the one where there, would be potentially an impact.
It looks
But-
like they might have a slight problem with the place next to them.
Again, there's so much space between them, I really don't think it would disrupt the views, not to mention the fact there's already dense landscaping, that if any views are disrupted, it's disrupted by the landscaping.
Well, I just wanted to make sure I hadn't overlooked something.
Sure.
I think the banking on the north side of Swan Road is higher, more severe than it is on the south side. So that this property on the south side is much lower and flatter, and it looks a lot wider. So their particular problem is the way that the road was built when that bridge went in.
Yeah.
That's the problem with that. But the thing that enhances their plan a certain amount is that the landscaping that they've done will practically hide the building. It's tall enough that it would practically hide the building.
Yeah, that's true, and that the tall arborvitae.
So I might as well tell you, I'm kitty corner to them, right across the street. And the landscaping that they put in there with the trees, you will barely see the peak of the building. But it is a difficult situation.
Okay, we know it's a difficult situation, but we've got to move forward, so I think, so you agree, we'll move forward with this, okay. So do we have a motion on the appeal?
I'll make a motion. Chairman? I'll make a motion if I can.
Okay.
I'd like to move to approve the appeal number 12-003 based on the uniqueness of a three-side yard lot, as well as the irregular shape of the lot, and the plantings will temporarily or will hide most of the structure, and it's through no fault of the applicants that their lot is in this particular condition.
Anything else, Brian, that should be in the motion?
I think he's covered. Maybe for clarification, you referenced the lot configure. I think part of it is the triple-fronted nature. I think part of it is the angle of the second front lot line.
So go over the reasons again there, Bob.
I said it's because of the uniqueness of three side yards and the irregular shape of the lot. The fact that it is not a rectangle, and also that the plantings will hide the part of the garage, and none of this is of the homeowner's fault that the township made the property in this particular way. That's the lot. It's just not a rectangular lot.
So really, we're addressing the uniqueness of the lot, the three-sided.
And that's their hardship.
That's the hardship. And
And that the side they're building the garage on is such an angle that, again, it's a 10-foot setback at one side of the garage and a 16-foot at the back end of the garage, and that's just because of the way the angle of the lot line goes. Now, to build it any other way would look funny.
or not build it at all.
Well, that doesn't suit their needs.
And I guess that's the question we have before us. Do those needs go over the reason for that we have ordinance in place, the 40-foot setback? I mean, that's what we have to decide. Here. Are there any other comments?
You don't have a second.
No, here, a second.
You need a second.
Okay, second. You have a second? Okay, hearing no second,
The motion fails.
motion failed. We have another motion. Okay. No, we're not through yet. We're not through.
It's just that motion as it was stated.
Oh, I see. Yeah. We have to go through the procedure of another motion, get one of the board members here to present another motion.
Okay, we were trying.
Well, yeah, possibility to rethink it and come back.
I mean, are we,
I'm hung up on the fact, Mr. Chairman, I don't think this, because this lot is a weird shape, that they should be allowed to do something that he's saying. But, on the other hand, I'm kind of leaning towards approving it because just allowing them to enjoy the use of their property and nobody's complaining. There's no neighbors having a problem. So I really don't like the fact that, we're going to base it all on the fact that they've got a weird shaped lot. I don't know where that's the hardship. They bought the lot that way. Maybe that's weird.
Okay, Mr. Chair, and I don't intend to put words in anyone's mouth, and certainly everyone's entitled to their opinion. An irregular lot shape and unique conditions of the lot are exactly what variances are to be based upon. So I'm not trying to put I'm not trying to put any words in your mouth, but
Is that a justification for a variance?
yes, that's one of the prime concerns.
So why do we
That-
need a variance? Why do we need why are we voting with justification?
I think the way the ordinance is written, it's written for a common lot. And when you have an odd-shaped lot.
Oh, is that what you're saying?
Let me ask, can we, I got very confused by the motion. I lost track of what the motion actually said.
Yeah.
If we could simplify the motion so that we could hear it again.
But you have to have major reasons that you're approving it, because it is very, a big variance.
I know, but maybe if I can hear it again, I can decide whether I feel like it's something I want to second or not.
Can you?
Because I'm confused by the motion.
I will repeat the motion, and we'll go through the graphic here at the same time.
Yeah, right.
I move to approve the appeal based on the fact that the uniqueness of 3 side yards. They have a front yard, a backyard where the canal is, and a side yard where the road is. And the irregular shape of the lot. If the lot was rectangular, they wouldn't be here this evening, because they would have a setback equal to the 44 feet that the house is from the lot line at the point where 44 feet 11 inches is shown.
At the present.
Yeah. So if that were drawn up the road, they'd have 44 feet at the beginning of the garage and in the back of the garage. Because it is not a rectangle, there's a 29.7 inch setback at the beginning of the garage, and that reduces to 24 feet at the back of the garage because of the irregularity of the lot.
But it's a variance all the way along.
Absolutely.
That's kind of wordy, but,
It's kind of wordy, but that one I would second.
you second that
I would
one?
second that.
We have, that's a lot of words. Did you get that down, Lori?
But you have to have everything in there. Well, then the other thing he had in it was the fact that the plantings
And the plantings.
are there that will cover part of the building.
Yeah, the plantings are very nice there, they do
Yeah,
hide.
right, and he had those plantings in there as improving the appearance.
I reaffirm my second.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so, okay, we got a motion, we have the motion,
A second?
we got a second. Okay, now can we vote on it?
Call
We
it.
have comments? Any more comments? No more comments? Now can we vote on it?
Okay.
Who's in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Motion passed.
Now I guess we're done, right?
Now you can roll up your thing.
Smile.
That's okay. I know you need help.
Okay, well, I'd like to continue the conversation, if you don't mind, Brian. I don't see why an on-site lot gives you the right to have the variance. It does not. The variance says you should be so far from the road.
No,
It doesn't say that the odd...
I think you're confusing terms. A variance is, and Mr. Chair, this is probably not prudent to
Yeah,
continue
I
debating
think-
a case you
I
just
think
decided.
we can comment on this
Yeah,
off, at another time. John? Yeah, we'll cover this another time.
Well, I'm saying, it was brought up during the meeting, I'm confused.
Well,
So we'll cover it during
and
the...
One of the things,
If it hadn't been during the meeting, Brian, I wouldn't...
yeah, one of
been saying.
One of the things that I would like to do is, one of the things that I'd like to do, we're going to have a meeting off of trying to get ourselves tuned in to the new ordinances and how ordinances are proposed, how they're planned, and so I think at that time, we can address that situation. Are you with me, Brian? Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Let's go ahead. Let's continue on. Now we have the next item on the agenda is the annual election of officers. Now, Lori, how do you go about doing this? What is the procedure for election of officers?
Well, you first start going with the chairman.
Okay. So that we got to vote for a chairman.
Somebody votes for the
Yeah, so
chairman.
the chair is open,
The chair is open. Yeah.
and
So I nominate Jim Denninger to continue on as chair.
Second.
Well, there you go. The chair.
Thank you.
Yeah,
then we need,
Okay.
so we all agree that Jim
You should-
can do
you
this
should-
job?
Mr. Chair, if I can jump in.
Huh? Well, with a little help, you haven't been over yet.
Generally, the procedure would be you ask for nominations, a nomination is made, it's supported, you ask if there's any more nominations. If there are no other nominations, then you take a vote appointing that person as chair.
Okay. Are there?
So Davis nominated him.
Yeah.
Somebody seconded it.
Are there any more nominations?
Are there any other nominees?
No.
Now you can vote.
Now we can vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
What can we say but yes?
Okay.
Now, you need, actually, you need a vice chairman, because you moved up from vice chairman to chairman.
Now we have vice chairman. Do we have a motion?
I would nominate Bob as vice chairman.
So who's our nominee?
Any other?
John?
Oh, I nominate Bob.
He nominates Bob. John nominates Bob.
So we have to have a ballot.
Do we have any other nominees? I guess we got to go through that. Any other?
Who's been on the zoning board the longest? You or John?
Well, Jackie.
Oh.
Jackie?
I have 12 years.
Well, that might be the consideration of who is here.
I can't nominate myself, and I'm not doing that, so.
Can it,
I'll
So-
nominate Jackie.
okay, so we have Bob nominated and Jackie nominated.
Well, I can rescind my nomination and I'll second Jackie.
So
I didn't know who was long, I thought Bob.
Okay, so we have Jackie up for nomination. Can we vote on that now? Aye.
Aye.
Jackie is vice president,
she's the
vice chairman.
Who's your secretary?
Okay. And then we have secretary. We have the secretary. We have a nominee for, a name for secretary.
I nominate Bob.
I second.
There we go.
Any other names? Hearing none, vote.
John.
Oh, John, we got another name, John. John is secretary.
Oh, wait,
Oh,
is that another nomination?
I don't know.
No, and I asked for another name for, and we had Bob, and then you said,
You can't use me.
okay. And we got
I
Bob.
think we, Bob.
So we vote for Bob as secretary.
Who's secretary?
Bob? Well, you gotta vote.
We'll vote. Aye.
Nay.
I don't know who I'm voting for.
Bob here.
Oh, yeah.
Bob the secretary.
Bob is
Okay.
secretary.
Bob the secretary. Okay? That's what we're
No, see,
voting for.
I'm the planning rep, so I cannot vote.
You cannot vote?
I can vote, but I can't hold office.
Oh, okay. Okay, so can we vote for Bob as secretary? Yes. So we got, yes, so Bob's,
So Lori will give us a new list. And we're still one vacancy. Do we? Was a sort of, did you have this? You have one of these?
Well, we don't have
Oh, I just wrote-
okay.
Here, you can, here. Planning, secretary, vice chair, and you can have that one, so she gives us a new one. Because, see, I have the dates on mine as to when they're renewable. Jackie, when is your term up on this?
I don't know, I guess, Lori. I don't remember.
Is it the 13th?
Look in the phone.
I can find out. I can find out.
Okay, can we continue?
So when's our next?
Are
meeting?
there any other comments or miscellaneous on the agenda here that we can talk about? Brian, we did talk about having some schooling, and I think we still are considering that.
Sure.
I'll get together with you, and then we'll see what we can put together.
Absolutely. Just to point out, we did note earlier as part of the discussion, but your next meeting date would be the 25th of September. It is unclear at this point whether or not we will have any items. There's the possibility we would have the other item that was potentially on tonight that was withdrawn at the applicant's request. And Lori's trying to tell me that apparently we do have another case in. So, yeah, so I guess I would suggest that it's entirely possible that we will have a meeting in September as well.
Okay, all right. With that, I think we can adjourn. We have a vote, adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All
Vote.
those in favor?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.